Well, joining us is Michael Mullaney, a former Liberal Democrat county councillor and the party's candidate for Bosworth in the last two general elections. But let me come to you first on this, Rory. Do you think that Labour authorities like Derby, like Leicester, have succeeded in convincing voters that council cuts are the government's fault?
I think that perhaps oversimplifies it in a way. We have to be really clear why these cuts are happening. This is not about deficit reduction. This is not about some economic strategy of the government. This is a deliberate attack to undermine, dismantle and attack local government. So I think to a point Labour councils are doing a good job making sure people understand why that is happening, that the blame for those cuts lies in Downing Street and the Conservative government, in Westminster before that the Conservative Liberal Democrat coalition government for the 5 years previous. But at the same time, Labour councils are having to confront extremely tough budget challenges and are not shying away from making those difficult decisions. That's a responsibility of being in power locally, and it's a responsibility we take seriously.
Nick, you've been critical of the government's cuts yourself, even though you're Conservative.
The cuts, we are dealing with them. The economy has to be brought back into balance. We are spending, as a country, more money than we're taking in taxes. We are dealing with very, very difficult decisions, as the viewers have just seen in Derby. But we are doing it, and we are seeking to protect, as best we can, the valuable frontline services that people expect of us. OK,
well, Michael Mullaney, people might not understand the nuances of local government funding and finance, but they really do care when services close. And obviously, you know, we see in Derby that swimming pools have shut, yet they've got that wonderful new velodrome there. How can you explain that to voters?
Well, exactly. It's all about making the most important priorities for local people. That's the key thing. One of the problems we've got at the moment is we've got a Prime Minister who doesn't really understand local government. You heard recently that David Cameron was complaining about council cuts in Oxfordshire to local services, when in fact it's because his government isn't giving the funding.
Of course, this was happening, wasn't it, when you were still in power with the Tories?
It's happening worse under the Conservatives on their own. But it would have happened under any government. When Labour were standing for office in 2010, Alistair Darling, the then Labour Chancellor, said Labour would cut worse than Thatcher. So it would have carried on under Labour. And it was the economic mess that Labour got us into in the first place that caused a lot of these problems.
Nick Rushton, you handle budgets. Where else can savings be made? Is there anywhere else?
Well, we are achieving the savings. We saved 100 million in the last Parliament. We need to save 78 million this Parliament. We've saved 60. We've still got to find another 18 million. It is tough and it is difficult, but what it means is doing things in different ways and thinking out of the box. But we'll have to save them. There is no magic money.
Some people, of course, say that you've all missed the boat, really, on getting some more magic money, because £7.4 billion was available in the devolution money that's been up for grabs, but the East Midlands won't be getting a share of that, Rory.
Well, in terms of magic money that appeared from nowhere, let's not forget we had Labour councils for 5 years, 6 years now, making very strong representations to government about the scale and pace of cuts to our budgets. It's only in the last year or so we've started to hear Conservative councils making similar noise as their budgets get cut. Conservative councils complain suddenly some magic money appear to help them out and to give them a bit of extra top-up cash this year. None of that money has gone to Labour councils. There's a profound unfairness in what's happening at the moment.
Is that right, Nick?
Labour areas hit far harder than Conservative areas.
Times are tough. We did get an extra £3 million, but it's relatively small bear out of a £400 million budget.
It's £3 million more than we got in the city.
I don't criticise my city, but the problems in the city are different to the problems in the county. So what we're doing now is we're forming, I call it a committee of the damned, which is the 5 lowest funded counties, where we're all getting together and putting evidence to government about how we need better funding. Because at the moment they don't respect deprivation, and you think Leicestershire's a real beautiful county. It is, but it does have pockets of deprivation.
It does.
And the funding formula needs to reflect that.
OK. Michael, do you think that you can make a comeback in this election? I mean, we heard your leader there saying this is the moment for the Lib Dems to capitalise.
Yes, I mean, across the East Midlands there are still lots of Liberal Democrats campaigning in their local areas. We're still the main opposition party in Leicestershire. In Derby we've got a really keen, active team there campaigning and fighting. In Amber Valley we've got new people coming forward to stand for the first time. Not traditionally a strong area for the Lib Dems, but we've got people standing there campaigning. And Lib Dems, where they get in, work all year round, campaign for their local communities. So I think we will see some recovery for the party.
What plans are you making?
Well, we hope to make more gains in the local area. We want to see more people supporting us. Where we do have councillors in Hinckley and Bosworth, Oadby and Wigston and elsewhere, they campaign in their communities all year round. We fight for local services such as trying to save the local fire engines when they were threatened in Hinckley. So, you know, people know where they have Lib Dem councillors, they have people who work all year round and represent and fight for their local communities.
OK. Well, as we mentioned earlier, the elections in Derby and Amber Valley aren't the only ones this week. We also get the chance to choose our police and crime commissioners. There are 4 people standing in Derbyshire looking to replace Alan Charles. In Nottinghamshire, there are 5 candidates for the role. Leicestershire and Rutland has 4 people vying to become the new police and crime commissioner, replacing Sir Clive Loader, who's stepping down. And in Lincolnshire, there are 4 people looking to take over from the current PCC, independent Alan Hardwick, who's also retiring. And of course, one development from the last PCC elections is that the Lib Dems are actually putting up candidates. What's this sudden conversion?
We don't believe in them because they concentrate too much power in the hands of one person. Unfortunately, they now exist. We don't believe in mayors either. So what we can do is try and reform them. There's a real problem with the size of the budgets that a lot of the police commissioners have. In Leicestershire, the Conservative Commissioner's Office runs to £1 million. That needs massively cutting back. And so what we're saying, where we're standing candidates, is we want to see a massive reduction in the bureaucracy and the costs of those offices and moving that money to where it's needed, into frontline policing.
But you still don't agree with PCCs?
No, but if people should support us if they want to see that movement from money from bureaucracy, putting it into frontline policing.
Change from within. Nick Rushton, do you think that the PCCs have caught on with people now? Do you think people will actually get out there and vote?
Well, I hope so. I mean, all parties are working hard. It is a very, very big constituency when you think about the whole of the city, the whole of the county and the whole of Rutland. You know, it's a big constituency and not a lot of people to deliver the leaflets. I've been out doing my bit. I'm sure Rory's done his bit. What I urge people to do is to vote.
You see, we've had some tweets this morning from people saying that they haven't actually had any leaflets come through their door or seen anybody on their doorstep. That's a problem, isn't it? If you can't get the message over, people won't come out and vote.
Absolutely. I mean, I think turnout will be relatively low in this election. I think ultimately there has to be a rethink about the notion of police and crime commissioners. We are fighting these elections hard. We have some excellent candidates. I was out campaigning the other day for our candidate Labour's candidate in Leicestershire, Lord Willie Back, who's running a big campaign. And these elections are important. This is about how we want our local police forces to be run. And let's not forget, under this Tory government, there are 18,000 fewer police officers on the beat across the country.
Let's not forget also that there are other candidates standing as well. Do you get the impression, Michael Mullaney, that people will vote?
I think it will be a struggle to get people out to vote. I mean, I think where parties are campaigning, where they're putting forward strong messages, saying such as let's transfer the money into frontline policing, that will get some people out. But it's always difficult because there are so many elections nowadays, county council elections, European elections, general elections, PCC elections. You know, there's so many, it's not surprising turnout can sometimes be quite low.
Michael Mullaney, thank you very much indeed.